Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the increasing number of black activists and propagandists that are being given book publishing deals. And I mean being gifted book publishing deals. Their work is absolute crap, piss poor research, badly written, but it's anti-white hatred of white people, and the publishers, controlled by the globalists, they can't wait to get it. They've got an endless appetite for all this anti-white propaganda by black authors or black propagandists, call it what you like. Now, they've got a certain technique. What some people are saying, well, okay, you may not like what's in there, but it's all footnoted, it's all referenced and cross-referenced. The sources are written up, so really, it's scholarly work. It's an academic treatise of some proportion, but let's wait a minute. Let's put aside the piss poor writing and the lies and the emotive language that's used that clearly gives away its propaganda, and not a history book or not a recounting of facts. And let's look at the sources. Now, this is a game that the leftist globalist propagandists play when they cross-reference each other. So let me just go through a list here of sources. I mean, here's one such book. Now, there's a source that claims particular violence by white people against black people. And if you look at the source, it was a group of black people that had a white overseer, but it was black people doing it to other black people, but that's not mentioned. So if you go to the actual source there, the other thing they do is they will use, let's say there's a study done by the African American Studies Department in some crazy, mad left-wing university, some hysterical nonsense that they've put out. They'll reference that and say, well, that's the source of the information. They'll say a study 123 P5 from such and such university, but they won't say it's the African American Studies. They won't say that the guy in charge is a screaming radical activist. They won't say that the information gathered was anecdotal, and that they won't say that it wasn't peer reviewed. So they'll put that in there. And other things, they'll simply reference what once you look through it, it turns out it's just an opinion column in The Guardian or the New York Times or some very left-leaning journal, and maybe just some small obscure online news outlet run by, again, a screaming radical activist, and they'll cite that as a source. And to some extent, this is set up and well organized. So they'll go to one. So it's, the globalist cabal, if you like, goes to the one source. Say, can you do a story that says, 1 million black people get murdered every nanosecond by white people who are all Hitlers? Can you do that? Yeah, not a problem. I can do that. Yeah, right. So they'll put up something. It's still an opinion piece. There's nothing scholarly about it at all. Maybe they get an intern to write it, for goodness sakes, and that'll go up. And then that becomes a source for the so-called academic book, the scholarly work that's being written by this activist author. So going through the list, in every case where whites have been depicted negatively, it's either a huge exaggeration or it's outright false. There is not one claim that is anti-white there that's true or accurate. Now, the author would have known this, but they don't care. It's ideological. Who cares? What's wrong with a few hundred lies and untruths? So they know it's untrue, and they know they're writing hysterical anti-white propaganda. They know that. They're being gifted these book deals. No publisher looking for a quality work would piss on them, let alone give them a book deal. So they're getting book deals, and some of them are quite lucrative, unusually so. Like authors in that authors of that caliber in that category, they wouldn't get very. So these people are getting more than double the commissions a writer, even a writer that's got a few achievements. So they're getting an unusually high commission. And then if you look at, there are various front organisations run by the United Nations and various NGOs that do advance orders. They'll buy 5 or 10,000 that'll get the book onto the best-selling list. But even though no one's bought it, it's just an organised buying club, if you like, by activist NGOs, and that'll sort of give the impression the author's some incredibly successful writer and historian who's exhaustively examined the facts and put them together, and when nothing could be further from the truth. So these are the sort of things they do. They'll arrange for articles to be written or studies to be produced, so-called studies by radically activists. The NGOs do a lot of these studies. Again, radical activism. NGOs that say run these refugee camps for the famines and civil wars in Africa, for example. So the NGOs are running these and distributing food, but they're not doing this for nothing. They're distributing hysterical hate propaganda. They're encouraging these people to go to the West and giving them the logistical support to do it. The NGOs are really evil and doing bad work. They're not doing good work just to help these people and try and repatriate them back into the village of their ancestors, all this sort of. They're not doing that, and they should be. They're not educating these people to read and write. They're trying to stuff radical feminist, Marxist, activist propaganda at them. So these NGOs are also writing, their little studies and their little reports and so on, which is one activist, writing to another activist for being read by another activist. So it's not even something that's even accepted as minimally accurate by anyone outside of the activist circle. And again, these things are being quoted and also misrepresented by these black authors. Now, it doesn't matter who the black author is. I haven't seen one of these activist authors produce any work that could even be, in a million years, could be called scholarly. And I'm just thinking of one now. Now she's I think she came from Chad or Botswana or somewhere like that, and came to England as a refugee, and was obviously picked out early as a poster child. Black lesbian, picked out early as a poster child, and was somehow magically, went to an English high school and magically came top and was president of the student club and all the sort of thing. And listening to her in interviews, I wouldn't call her a fucking moron, but if the IQ's even 100, I'd be surprised. Then gets gifted a gig at college. Again, star student and president of the debating team and editor of the student magazine, and these are all signs that she's been targeted by the globalists as a poster child. These are the giveaways. You see someone who's president of the student magazine. That's it. Always say to yourself, there's 9 out of 10 likelihood that she is therefore a target, an activist who's been groomed in activism by the globalist cabal. So. And then she comes straight out of university with a gifted degree. She couldn't have got a fucking degree. Straight out of university with a gifted degree, and then immediately, she's barely walked out the university door, and suddenly a publisher gives her a book deal. So she's writing her first book. Again, it does well enough to appear on the bestseller list, but again, that's because the NGOs bought up copies of it, and so artificially giving the pretense that she was an author. So it's how they create these fake propagandist authors. So now she's got a public profile, so people listen to, well, if she says all white people are evil, well, they must be because she said so. So that they'll try that, and that's, by the way, that tactic of cross-referencing. So the author, and I've challenged some people on this, on these sorts of things where they make claims that are obviously untrue, and obviously they couldn't have happened. Just the sheer, mathematical logistics of it would make the claim impossible. But still, they attempt to push it push such a falsehood as accurate. And so if you pin them down and say, well, hey, I didn't say it, they said it, I'm only quoting what they said, so hey, don't have a go at me, you need to talk to them. But the article that's being or the study or the whatever that's being cited is manifestly untrue, done to the lowest possible standards of rigor. And again, the author knows that. So that's just a cop-out. This particular author has been challenged, and that's always her response. Hey, it wasn't me, I didn't say it, they did. And that's, of course, what politicians do when they're, say, trying to push vaccines. Hey, I didn't say it, the health expert said it, it's not me, I didn't do it. Or Joe Biden can say, white supremacy is our biggest threat. Hey, it's not me, it's the FBI that said it. It wasn't me, it was them. And this is a tactic. And when you see that being played, then you know it's a globalist play. So that's my take on things. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.